Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're going to be checking out some excerpts from a master's thesis you guys sent in.
Yeah.
Called Softwar, a novel theory on power projection and the national strategic significance of Bitcoin.
Right.
So this one is going to be a wild ride because we're going to be connecting the dots between power dynamics, like from little bacteria all the way to nation states, and then ultimately to Bitcoin.
That's right. It's really a fascinating look at power, how it works everywhere.
Yeah, and it'll get you thinking differently about how power works.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just online, but...
Not just online.
But in, life itself.
Yeah, in life itself. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so before we unpack the theory itself, let's introduce the mastermind behind it.
Right.
Jason Lowery. So this guy, he's got some serious credentials. Just to name a few, U.S. Space Force officer, MIT fellow astronautical engineer, and he's even advised...
It's a real deal.
Some, top U.S. official...
Yeah, and that really comes through in his analysis.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can tell that his thinking about things like electronic warfare...
Right.
And, space system design.
Yeah.
That really adds a lot of weight to what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's not just theoretical.
No, not at all.
It's coming from someone who's dealt with power dynamics at the highest levels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was something that really caught my eye too, was his background.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, okay. Now on to the theory itself.
Okay.
So he uses something called a grounded theory approach.
Yes.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So grounded theory is all about building a new theory.
Okay.
From scratch, from the ground up.
Okay.
But the key here is you're basing it on data.
Okay.
Instead of trying to, jam your observations into these pre-existing frameworks.
No, okay.
So it's kind of like,
yeah.
It's like, being a detective and you got to piece together all these clues.
Yeah.
To solve a mystery.
Makes sense.
So, and this approach is super important, especially when we're dealing with something like Bitcoin.
Okay.
Which is so new and complex.
Right.
And traditional theories might just miss the mark.
Yeah, because they're trying to I guess.
Oh, exactly.
Put a square peg in a round hole, kind of.
Exactly. You got it.
So instead of starting with assumptions, he's letting the data.
That's right.
Kind of guide him.
The data leads the way.
Yeah. So where does he even begin with this whole exploration of power?
So it all starts with this really fundamental question, how do organisms survive and thrive in this, crazy, chaotic, competitive environment?
Right.
And his argument is that basically all of life, from the tiniest little bacteria to entire countries, are constantly in this power projection game.
Oh, wow.
This constant struggle to maximize their influence.
Okay.
While minimizing, the costs of doing that.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Taken
exactly. To a whole new level.
A whole new level, yeah.
Yeah. So to help us wrap our heads around this, he introduces this really key concept.
Okay.
Called the benefit to cost ratio of attack, or BCRA.
Okay. BCRA.
BCRA, yeah. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine you got a lone gazelle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wandering away from its herd for a lion. Mm-hmm. That gazelle.
Yeah.
Easy target, right?
Yeah.
High benefit.
Yeah.
Low cost.
Yeah. So high BCRA is bad news for the gazelle.
Exactly. Bad news.
Right.
You want to minimize that BCRA to survive.
Right.
And so Lowery calls this the survivor's dilemma.
This is survivor's dilemma.
Right. Because you need resources to thrive.
Yeah.
But getting those resources, that can make you vulnerable.
Right. So it's like a balancing act. Do you hide and starve?
Right.
Or grow and risk,
exactly,
becoming someone's lunch?
That's the dilemma.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lowery says there are three options.
Three options. Okay.
For organisms facing this dilemma.
Lay it on me.
So first, they can try to minimize their resources. Try to blend in.
Right. Don't draw attention to yourself.
Exactly. Don't be flashy, right? But that's going to limit growth.
Yeah. You can't really thrive if you're just hiding all the time.
Right. So option two is to become really, really good at hiding.
Oh, okay.
Right. Make it really hard for predators to find you.
Sneaky. But I bet that takes a lot of energy.
It does.
In the long run.
Yeah. You're burning a lot of calories just staying hidden.
Stay under the radar.
So that's why Lowery thinks option three. is the most effective.
What's option 3?
Maximize your capacity to impose costs.
To impose costs.
So make attacking you so costly or so painful that it's just not worth it.
So it's not just about defense. It's about deterrence, right?
Exactly. It's about saying, don't even think about messing with me.
Yeah, like don't even try it.
Right, exactly. So think about it like a gazelle with sharp horns, right? Yeah. Much less likely to be attacked than one without horns.
Right.
Even though growing those horns takes energy, it's an investment.
It's an investment in your safety.
Right, in your security.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does this whole BCRA and power projection thing, how does that apply to humans,
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because we don't have horns.
Yeah, we don't have horns or fangs.
Right.
But we have this unique ability to project power through abstract concepts like rank laws, belief systems.
Right.
And Lowery calls this imaginary power.
Imaginary power.
And this is what really separates us from other species.
Interesting.
Yeah. So things like, the authority of a judge or the power of persuasion.
Gotcha.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay. So it's like these ideas that have power.
Exactly. Ideas, concepts, beliefs.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So to really illustrate this, he contrasts two figures.
Okay.
Captain Eastman. Who is an A-10 pilot.
Oh, wow.
So she's got real, physical power.
Okay.
Ability to inflict damage.
Yeah, she's got the firepower.
And then you have Chief Justice Dudley. And he wields abstract power.
Okay.
Through, his position in the legal system.
Right.
So he doesn't have weapons.
Right.
But his decisions could have huge consequences.
Right. So it's like the difference between a warrior and a judge.
Yeah, I like that.
Like one has brute force. The other one has the power of the law.
Of the law and the system.
Yeah. And to really understand this difference, Lowery created these tables.
He did.
Contrasting their forms of power.
Yeah.
So what do these tables
what do they tell us about?
Reveal about their types of power?
So let's start with Captain Eastman.
Okay.
Her power is self-evident.
Oh, okay.
You see an A-10.
Yeah.
You know it can cause serious damage.
Right. You know what it is.
Yeah. It's also what we call systemically exogenous.
Systemically exogenous?
Yeah. Meaning it comes from a source.
Yeah.
Outside of people's beliefs.
Okay.
An A-10 exists.
Yeah.
Whether people believe in its power or not.
Right. It's just grounded in reality.
It is. Literally.
Literally.
And it's also unsympathetic.
Unsympathetic.
Meaning it doesn't need you to believe in it.
Oh, okay. To work. Right.
It's going to drop a bomb whether you like it or not.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And importantly, this power is physically constrainable.
Physically constrainable. Okay.
Meaning there are limits to fuel.
Right.
Ammunition, airspace regulations.
Gotcha.
You can't just fly it anywhere you want.
Yeah, there are rules.
And it's also thermodynamically restricted. Which basically means, you can't just conjure up more A-10s or more firepower out of thin air.
Right.
It takes resources and energy to create them.
Gotcha.
So, to summarize, her power is real, tangible, and bound by, the laws of physics.
Right. What about Chief Justice Dudley's abstract power?
Okay, so that's where it gets really interesting. Right?
Okay.
Because his power is not self-evident.
Okay.
You can't just look at him and know, how much authority he has. Right. You got to understand the legal system and, his place within it.
Yeah.
So it's what we call systemically endogenous.
Systemically endogenous. Okay.
Kind of meaning it exists within people's beliefs.
Oh.
It only works if people agree to follow the laws and respect the court's authority.
So it's more, fragile than, a physical...
It's reliant on shared beliefs.
Right.
Exactly. And it's also sympathetic.
Sympathetic.
Which means it needs people to believe in it to function.
So if people,
Yeah, if people lose faith in the legal system, boom.
It's gone.
His power vanishes.
Wow.
Unlike Captain Eastman's power, his is physically unconstrainable.
Physically unconstrainable.
Yeah. There are no physical limits to how or where he exerts his authority.
Wow. So it's the power of words, ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Not bombs and bullets.
Not bombs and bullets. Wow.
And that makes it really hard to control.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And his power is also like path dependent.
Path dependent.
Which means his decisions can be reversed.
Oh, okay.
Appealed,
Right.
And critically, it's thermodynamically unsound.
Thermodynamically unsound.
Which means,
yeah,
you can create more judges,
yeah,
more laws without any real-world constraints.
Right.
And finally, it's not inclusive.
Okay.
Not everyone can have this level of abstract power.
Yeah.
These certain qualifications,
Connections, yeah.
Connections.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Chief Justice Dudley's power, then, is abstract.
Yeah.
It relies on these shared beliefs.
Right.
And it's potentially, like, unlimited in scope.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is that, like, so much of our world is dominated by
this kind of power.
Imaginary power.
Imaginary power.
Yeah.
Governments, corporations, financial systems. It's all based on abstract concepts and rules.
It makes you wonder, then, what are the implications of, like, relying so much on this imaginary power?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Which we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for that. Now, it's important to note that Lowery doesn't just, like, sing the praises of abstract power.
Right.
He also points out,
the
downsides.
Okay, yeah.
The potential pitfalls.
What are the dangers of, like, this imaginary power that we're all, like, swimming in, essentially?
Yeah. Well, as we saw with, Chief Justice Dudley, abstract power can be exploited.
Okay.
It can be corrupted.
Right.
Because it's based on, like, beliefs, perceptions.
Yeah.
It can be manipulated.
Right. By people with...
individuals, groups.
Agendas,
exactly.
It's like a house of cards, almost.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Like, impressive, but, pull out the wrong card.
Right.
The whole thing collapses.
Exactly.
And, I mean, history is full of examples, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, leaders abusing their authority systems.
Right.
Getting rid, people being misled by,
propaganda, misinformation.
Propaganda, right?
Yeah.
This is all, like, symptoms of abstract power gone wrong.
Abstract power gone wrong.
Right. And this is where the whole, like, self-domestication idea comes in.
Exactly.
Right.
So Lowery argues that over-reliance on abstract power can actually weaken societies and make them more vulnerable.
Right.
So just like, domesticated animals, we become dependent
on the system.
Yeah. We lose the ability to fend for ourselves.
Wow. So we trade our, like, freedom and resilience for, like,
for comfort.
The comfort and security of the system.
Yeah, for the illusion of security.
But then we end up
trapped.
Trapped in this, like, gilded cage.
In a gilded cage.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, like, he connects this to, like, the digital realm, the rise of software.
Exactly.
So, so this is where the, like, computer science kind of kicks in.
Yeah, the computer science comes in.
How does software fit into all of this?
So Lowery's argument is that software at its core is a belief system.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Software is just, like, code, right?
Right.
Ones and zeros.
It seems like that on the surface.
How is that a belief system?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Software's a set of instructions.
Right.
Telling a computer what to do. But those instructions are based on human assumptions.
Okay.
Human values.
Okay.
Human goals.
Right.
So the code itself reflects the beliefs and intentions
of the programmers. I gotcha.
Yeah. So we trust software.
Yeah.
To do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
But that trust is based on our belief.
In the programmer?
Yeah. In the competence.
Okay.
And the integrity of the developer.
Like trusting a recipe?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a recipe. You believe that.
Right.
If you follow it, you'll get a delicious cake.
Yeah, a delicious cake.
But what if the recipe's wrong?
Right. Or you mess it up.
Disaster.
Exactly. Disaster. And software, unlike a cake, can have, like, far-reaching consequences.
Well, like, our whole lives are intertwined with software now.
Everything we do is touched by software.
Finances, healthcare.
Everything.
Social interactions. It's kind of scary to think about.
It is a little bit.
We're putting a lot of faith in these.
A lot of faith.
Lines of code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where Lowery's warning about self-domestication becomes even more, like, relevant.
Okay.
The more we rely on software,
the
more vulnerable we become.
To the flaws.
To the flaws, the biases.
In the code.
In the code.
So we're basically like handing over control of our digital lives.
In a way,
to a select group of
software developers.
Yep. Yeah. And that's...
And that concentration of power.
Yeah.
Coupled with like the abstract nature of software.
Yeah.
Creates all sorts of challenges.
Okay, not sure.
So one thing is like software lacks the constraints.
Of the real world.
Of the real world, exactly.
Okay.
So think about like a bridge.
Okay.
There are physical limitations.
Yeah.
To how long it can be, how tall, how heavy.
It's got to like stand up, right?
Right. The laws of physics.
Right.
Properties of materials.
Yeah.
They impose constraints.
Yeah.
Software can be infinitely complex. Layers upon layers of code.
Yeah.
Interdependencies.
Can like grow and mutate in ways that physical objects just can't.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Wow.
So that runaway complexity leads to problems.
Like what?
Security vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Unintended consequences.
Okay.
Ultimately, concentration of power in the hands of a few.
So it's not just about like malicious hackers.
Right? It's about the inherent vulnerabilities
of the software itself.
Of the software itself. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lowery outlines a few specific cybersecurity challenges that stem from this. Like abstract nature of software.
Lame on me.
All right. So first, there's the problem of infinite state spaces.
Infinite state spaces.
So unlike physical systems, right, which have a limited number
of like states they can be in?
Of states, software can exist in an almost infinite number of configurations.
Right. So it's like you're trying to secure a house with infinite doors and windows.
Exactly. Good luck with that.
That's daunting.
Yeah.
So the challenge with software is...
The sheer number of configurations makes it nearly impossible to test for every scenario.
Every scenario.
Right.
Right.
It's a never-ending.
Whack-a-mole.
With bugs and vulnerabilities.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Okay. So the second challenge is invisible control signals.
Invisible control signal?
Yeah. So in the physical world, we can usually see... like how things work, who's controlling them.
Right. It's all out in the open.
Right. But in software, those control mechanisms are often hidden in the code.
Right. It's like a secret language.
It is, yeah.
That only the programmers understand.
Exactly.
Right.
And that lack of transparency creates all sorts of
opportunities
for abuse and manipulation.
For things to go wrong.
Yeah. Right. And then finally,
okay,
there's the inherent insecurity of logical constraints.
Logical constraints.
So software relies on logic to function, but logic can be flawed.
Okay.
Logic can be manipulated, exploited. Right. So we're essentially like flying blind.
Kind of, yeah.
And just trusting that the software...
Trusting that it's working as intended.
Is doing what it's supposed to.
But we don't really know for sure.
But no way to, like, really verify...
Right, it's a black box.
...that it's doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So Lowery's arguing that, like, these challenges highlight the need for, like...
We need new solutions.
New cybersecurity solutions.
New ways of thinking about cybersecurity.
Yeah, because the old approach...
Well, old ways aren't going to cut it.
Aren't going to cut it.
In this new world.
In this new world.
Right. So what's the answer then?
Well, that's where Bitcoin comes in.
Okay, here we go.
And this is where Lowery's theory gets really, really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so he suggests that Bitcoin, or more specifically, the underlying tech of proof of work, might be the key to addressing these vulnerabilities of software.
Of software-based abstract power.
Okay, remind me what proof of work is again?
Sure. So in simple terms, proof of work is a way to physically constrain actions in cyberspace by requiring real-world energy expenditure.
So you have to, like...
You got to put in the work.
Put skin in the game.
Literally. Skin in the game.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what's so powerful about it.
Okay.
Because it introduces a tangible cost
right.
to digital actions.
Makes it more difficult to
Yeah, much harder to manipulate or exploit.
To cheat the system.
To cheat the system, exactly. So how does this apply to Bitcoin specifically?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin's proof of work mechanism, known as mining, requires miners to solve these complex math problems using specialized hardware.
Right.
This process consumes a ton of electricity, creating this real-world cost barrier.
Yeah. So you can't just fake it.
You can't fake it.
You got to expend real energy.
Real energy.
To participate.
Yeah, you got to be in it to win it.
Wow.
And that physical constraint is what makes Bitcoin so revolutionary.
Okay.
It creates a digital system that's rooted in the physical world.
Right.
Making it much more resistant
to those vulnerabilities. Of abstract power.
Exactly.
So it's like building a digital fortress.
Yeah, I like that.
On a foundation of concrete and steel instead of sand. Yeah.
It's a solid foundation.
Yeah. And this is where Lowery's theory goes from innovative to truly mind-boggling. He theorizes that Bitcoin's network acts as a planetary scale computer.
A planetary scale computer.
Hold on. Planetary scale computer.
Sounds crazy.
Break that down for me.
But if you follow his logic, it starts to make sense. So Bitcoin's network, right?
Yeah.
Millions of miners all over the world.
Okay.
Constantly processing transactions.
Right.
Securing the blockchain.
Okay.
This takes a massive amount
computing power?
Of computational power.
Yeah.
Drawing energy from all sorts of sources worldwide.
So it's like this giant distributed brain.
Yeah, like a global brain.
Powered by the Earth's
electricity grid. Exactly.
I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this planetary scale computer represents a fundamental shift in power dynamics.
How so?
It creates a new arena for competition.
Where the dominant force isn't
military might or economic power,
but
something Lowery calls bit power. Bit power.
Okay, what is bit power?
So bit power is the ability to control and influence this new physically constrained
Bitcoin
space. Yeah, it's a new form of power projection.
So instead of stockpiling nukes, we're competing
for control.
For control of this
of this planetary scale computer.
Exactly.
Wow. That's
it's a whole new world.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is, yeah.
And the implications
are huge, potentially reshaping, the geopolitical landscape.
The whole world
as we know it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before we get into those implications, let's recap what we've learned so far.
Let's do it.
We've gone from the survival strategies of bacteria.
Some bacteria.
To the potential for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To revolutionize.
Global power.
Global power dynamics.
Wow. It's remarkable how he connects these seemingly disparate ideas to paint this grand sweeping picture of power.
It's like a whole new way of
seeing the world.
It really is.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It is.
All right, so now I'm ready to explore those implications.
Okay, let's do it.
What does this bit power revolution mean for cybersecurity, geopolitics, individual empowerment,
all the big questions.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into these implications, these big questions. First up, cybersecurity.
Right.
How could bit power change the way we protect our digital lives?
Well, you remember how we talked about those inherent vulnerabilities of software? Those infinite state spaces, the invisible control signals,
right.
The fragility of logic, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that.
So bit power offers a different approach, right?
Yes. Okay.
By introducing real world limitations into the digital realm.
Okay, so instead of relying on this complex code,
exactly.
We're using real world energy to create a more secure foundation.
Exactly. So by attaching a real cost to digital actions, proof of work makes attacks, more expensive.
Right.
Less attractive.
Yeah, it's like installing a heavy duty lock.
Yeah, I like that.
On your digital front door,
Yeah.
Might not be impenetrable,
Right. Strong deterrent.
It's a strong deterrent.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that shift could have, like, major implications.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like everything, right?
Everything. I mean, safeguarding sensitive information, preventing, like, election interference, protecting critical infrastructure.
It's almost like Bitcoin is acting as this, like, global immune system for cyberspace.
I like that. I like that analogy.
Constantly battling threats. Yeah. Maintaining, like, the network's integrity.
Keeping everything healthy.
Yeah. So this brings us to, like, the geopolitical implications.
Yeah, the geopolitics of this is fascinating.
Bit power, right.
So if, like, controlling this new physically constrained cyberspace becomes, like, a strategic goal for nations, how will that
reshape the world?
The global balance of power?
Yeah. I mean, countries are already competing for dominance in play, like AI, quantum computing. Like, where does bit power fit into all this?
So Lowery's proposing that we might be seeing this transition from, like, kinetic warfare to electronic warfare, where nations are competing using bit power.
Instead of, like, physical force.
Instead of tanks and missiles.
Wow.
Yeah, and he even uses this term
Softwar
to describe this new form of, like,
conflict. So instead of, like, tanks and missiles, it's like mining rigs and energy infrastructure are the new, like, weapons of choice.
Yeah, the new tools of power.
It sounds like something out of, like, a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it?
But it's happening, like, now.
And it's unfolding right in front of us.
Wow.
Yeah, so imagine nations, investing heavily in these, like, massive server farms, renewable energy sources, specialized hardware.
All in a race.
Control the Bitcoin network.
To control a larger portion of the Bitcoin network.
Wow. And the stakes couldn't be higher.
No, not
like whoever controls this planetary scale computer could
have huge influence.
Influence, like,
global finance, communication.
Political systems even.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new battleground.
It's a whole
with new rules, new contenders,
Wow. So now beyond, like, nation states.
Right.
Lowery also talks about, like, the potential for bit power to, like, empower individuals. How could Bitcoin, like, shift the balance of power away from, like, these large institutions and towards, like, everyday people? Well, right now we're pretty much, at the mercy of big tech, financial institutions, governments when it comes to our digital lives.
Yeah, they control, like, our data, our access to information.
Our ability to transact,
Yeah, it's like we're digital tenants almost.
Yeah.
Like, confined to their
carefully controlled spaces.
Yeah. But Bitcoin
offers an alternative.
Okay.
It's decentralized nature.
Right.
It's resistant to censorship. It's got peer-to-peer value transfer capabilities.
Yeah.
All of this offers individuals a chance to,
break free. Exactly.
From these, like, centralized systems.
From those centralized systems.
So it's like having your own digital fortress.
Your own digital domain,
where you control...
You control the access, you set the rules.
They set the rules, right.
Exactly. And you wouldn't be so reliant on those intermediaries and gatekeepers. Yeah, you can, like, transact directly with others.
Right, directly with others.
Secure your own data. Participate in this, like, global network that's governed by, like...
By consensus.
Not
by decree.
Not by, like, the rules of, like, big tech.
It's a whole different way of, like, organizing things.
Yeah, it's almost like Bitcoin is ushering in, like, this digital version of, like, a revolution.
It is. It's a revolution in power.
Empowering individuals to assert their independence. From this centralized control.
That's right.
This is incredible.
And that's what makes Lowery's Softwar theory so compelling.
Right.
Because it's not just about, the technology itself.
Right.
It's about freedom, empowerment.
Right.
The future of, like, how we govern ourselves.
No, in this digital age.
Yeah. Wow. Well... I think Lowery's theory is really, like... pushed us...
It's thought-provoking. To reconsider how we think about power.
Absolutely.
From, like, those tiny bacteria.
To
like, the vast digital world.
Yeah.
And it urges us to understand, like...
To understand the allure of abstract power, but also the dangers, right?
Right, and the vulnerabilities of...
vulnerabilities of our digital lives.
Our digital lives.
And ultimately the potential of,
Oh, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin to lead us
to
a more secure
and decentralized
future.
Yeah. This has been a lot to consider.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, and this deep dive was really just like...
the starting point.
The tip of the iceberg, you know?
Exactly.
And now it's up to you to, delve deeper.
Delve deeper and form your own conclusions.
That's right.